Yeah, and there was one thing specifically. I'm going to talk so vaguely, it's going to drive folks nuts. But
We love
I mean,
it.
there was one
We
thing
love it.
specifically that I threw in there that I was not aware of, that it was going to be part of the movie, and we were able to keep it in and do it in a way that it sort of is going to hint at more of a more expansive exploration of it in the movie. And I just thought that was so. I mean, I'm just going to fanboy out for a minute.
What's going on, everybody? It's another edition of the Ghost Heads Radio Show. You know me, Ted, aka Steady. Today, I am joined by the one and only Retro Ray, and it's a
Hello,
very
guys.
special occasion because we are all celebrating the 40th anniversary of Ghostbusters, a new movie that's just weeks away, and also a brand new comic series, Ghostbusters, back in town. And with us tonight are two of the individuals who's part of the creative team, writer David Booher and artist Blue Delliquanti. How you guys doing?
Doing great.
Amazing. So excited to be here. And actually, as you were describing the intro, I just heard the Ghostbusters theme and the siren from Ecto 1 in my brain. It's like rocking out already.
It's been on my playlist every single day. It's wild, and I can't imagine how you guys feel because for fans who I don't want to use the word deprived, but we've always had this idea that the franchise has such a high ceiling and can reach some very great potential landmarks, projects, anything. And it's like for the first time in 40 years, we're actually kind of reaching that potential, not only with multiple movie projects and animation projects in the works, but now the comics are coming back, and you guys are a part of that. Let's start off with maybe how each of you got involved with Ghostbusters back in town.
Blue, why don't you kick it off?
Oh, no pressure or anything. Okay.
No pressure. No pressure.
So, let me see. How did I get involved with Ghostbusters back in town? Well, I have worked with Dark Horse before on a couple of other projects of theirs. If I'm remembering correctly, it was I was originally contacted to work on some comics for the Legend of Korra. So I was kind of in their Rolodex for that. And I was contacted by our editor to take the lead on the art for a new series, and I decided I wanted to give it a try. I'm still kind of new to the like single issue like storytelling. I come from the world of like web comics and graphic novels, but honestly, it was a really fun challenge. I'm glad I got to work from David's script and work with our editors. So that was how I got involved.
And I set out to make it as absolutely difficult as possible for Blue. So I'm just a monster. I'm really a monster. No, yeah, it's been a joy to work together. But the way I got involved is just I was kind of relentless. So I have a couple of different books with Dark Horse, including one that I love called Killer Queens, which I describe as Guardians of the Galaxy. And it was with a different set of editors at Dark Horse. And so the news broke that Dark Horse had the license for Ghostbusters. And I wasn't even finished reading the article, the exclusive that came out. And I was like, hey, dear editors, I see you have the Ghostbusters license. So I actually emailed my editor who sent me over to our editors on Ghostbusters. And I got an email that we all sort of dream about getting, which is the editor reaching out and saying, do you want to be a part of this? And well, I'm sure, I don't know if there's a question coming about our connection to Ghostbusters, but I have about 40-year connection to Ghostbusters as a fan. So I 100%, I couldn't send an email reply fast enough saying, yes, I will do it. Who do I have to push down to get there?
Initiative, folks. Sometimes it helps. Just saying. Go out there and do
yeah,
it.
if you're passionate about something and you're a creator, you just reach out. The worst they can say is no. And more often than not, they want to work with people who they enjoy working with. So I hope I fall into that category.
I agree with you on that because I got Drew Moss on the show because he was doing the Thundercat series
Mm.
and for Dynamite, and he was a hardcore fan. He was jumping at the chance to draw it, and kind of like the same thing like you. As soon as he saw they got the license, he was reaching out and he was sending like sketches like one after another, and they
Oh
finally
my
say,
god.
yeah, and they finally say, well,
That if I did that, it would work against me. Lou, you probably could do that. It would be like, this is what I should do. But I am practicing my Slimer and my Stay Puffed drawing so I can do little remarks on comics.
Yeah,
Oh,
so
nice.
do your signature when you get the trade paperbacks in.
Oh, I got the single issues as number ones. I'm going to be just out in the street corner being like, I do Ghostbusters, let's go.
So this is kind of what you had kind of referenced before, but I like to kind of put my own little twist on it. What does it mean to you to be a part of this project, which is expanding on this like now expansive lore of Ghostbusters and the entire franchise?
For me specifically, I mean, I don't think I have as much of a like storied history with Ghostbusters. I loved the first movie when I was a kid. I think it leaves a impact on you, especially if you watch something like that when you're a kid. And it's been kind of exciting to see how the franchise has like grown and like how they are like adding in new actors, new characters, trying to expand that world and like continue to make it like accessible to like younger viewers. And so I've kept that in the back of my mind as I was like working on the script, is thinking about, you know, we're kids to read this and to like kind of what would get them to be excited and to like have that same sort of sense of like wonder or thrills or whatever it was that we had watching the films like when we were younger. I think that's a good attitude to go into like
I love it.
new editions of a thing with.
And for me, like I said, it goes back maybe not quite 40 years because when Ghostbusters 84 came out, I was 5. So that library ghost probably would have scarred me for life at 5.
Oh, it terrified me as a kid.
Yeah. So I think if you watch the trailer of Frozen Empire carefully, there might be some hints about it. But um, uh, yeah, so 1984 was a little bit early for me, but 1989, which is when Ghostbusters 2 came out, I was I stand Vigo. I was a Vigo head, Vigo the Carpathian. I was all about that slime in the sewers. It was my Ghostbusters 2 was my jam, and I watched it so many times. I watched the cartoon um, when I think after school Saturday morning. I think it was both.
Yeah.
I actually remember vaguely eating the Ghostbusters cereal
Yes.
while watching the
Yes.
cartoon. Drank the Ecto Cooler. I was
course.
like, it was such a hardcore. I just loved Ghostbusters. So to be able to watch Ghostbusters Afterlife and see a new generation of Ghostbusters still tied into the originals, but like bringing it to a different place where it's, if Ghostbusters was about 4 working class kind of Joes, blue collar Joes going out and fighting ghosts and sort of having fun doing that. This is about a family coming together and doing something similar. I loved that. I loved Afterlife. And to be able to take those characters in the comic book with Blue's designs and sort of create a new and different iteration. We're not trying to recreate exactly like, exactly what the characters look, the actors look, that sort of thing. We're creating this new version of Ghostbusters with these characters that kind of can live on its own. I know it's tied into Frozen Empire and Afterlife, but it kind of lives on its own, like the Ghostbusters cartoon or Extreme Ghostbusters. So I hope people, when they read this comic, they look at it and they say, oh, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, oh, this is this iteration of Ghostbusters, which is different from all the other ones.
Mhm.
Yeah. Definitely. Different, but still it is still celebrating what makes Ghostbusters fantastic and wonderful to fans everywhere. And that's what we appreciate with not only you guys but with everybody involved with the projects moving forward. It's done with intense care, attention to detail, and all the fans are just appreciating it across the board. Ray, your turn. Say some stuff.
Definitely. So Blue, where did you get the inspiration? Of course, with artists, you have to take what the writer writes, and they put a little bit of detail, like this is your splash page, this is what you're going into this room, the background description, and of course, it's your imagination to bring to life what he's written.
Mhm.
Where did you get your inspiration for your artwork to put into the comic?
Yeah, that's a good question. This is something I thought about because I feel like Ghostbusters, like the original Ghostbusters movies, are in this era of cinema where one of the main characters, like recurring main characters, is the city of New York. I feel like so many movies I watched when I was a kid, like, your Home Alone 2s, your, help me out. Like, what are some other like movies from like the 80s and 90s that like take place in New
Ninja
York and that is
Turtles.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, Ninja Turtles is a great example. Like there's so many like I didn't go to New York until I was like, in middle school, but I feel like I had already had this sense of like what to expect from a city like that, like what people living there are like, and there's this like texture and this character to it, right? That is so particular to what makes Ghostbusters work. So when I was trying to figure out how to interpret the scripts, I thought about how I would like develop New York, in a way that was still contemporary. There are a lot of things about the New York that I captured that are like pretty, distinct to 2020s New York. That the cabs look different, the trash cans look different, but there's, also a lot of like recognizable landmarks, and trying to think about it as this place where like people live and they navigate and they like, do all of their Ghostbuster things as a really important part of what makes a story like that work. I also definitely considered when I was like designing the characters, I did think about the cartoon, and that, what makes it work is that the character designs work for animation. Everything, like all the silhouettes and likenesses are like dialed up to 11. They're a little more extreme, and I think that's what's kind of what was a fun challenge with redesigning the characters for the comics, is that I tried to make them look like Paul Rudd, Finn Wolfhard,
Nice.
and the actors do have to they have to sign off on their likenesses. I had a very funny email from my editor when I passed on the first character saying, "Okay, great, we'll send these to Paul's people." And I was like, "Paul's people?" But yeah, they all have really interesting like silhouettes and like things distinct about their looks that I got to push a little bit more and make them like the dialed up to 11 version of themselves, which was honestly really fun.
Nice.
That's the sexiest man alive you're talking about. You got to get his cheekbones right.
He was
His-
surprisingly difficult to capture, Paul Rudd. He was the hardest one to get used to drawing.
Well, he looks like a Greek god. That's why it is very difficult to do that.
Oh man.
I
So
spoke
cool.
earlier about just all the creatives taking such care with this franchise moving forward. Jason and Gil seem to be very hands-on with everything that's kind of happening across the board. What was the collaborative process like working with those two and anybody else at Ghost Corps?
So from my part with the scripting, I think Jason and Gil were very involved. They're two of the nicest folks, I think, in Hollywood. They're so generous. They're so passionate. All of their notes come from a place of wanting to, of sort of caretaking of the franchise.
Yep.
Because I think that's the number one thing for them, is to make sure that they're doing right by Jason's dad and just all the fans and everybody. So knowing that when the notes come in, it's like we're all just working toward the same goal, which is to make the best Ghostbusters possible, and to celebrate this franchise. With that said, they would send over like dialogue notes sometimes, and it's so funny. They're so freaking funny. But I'm like, I don't care what I wrote before, because we're definitely using what you just wrote, because that I'm literally laughing as I'm reading notes. And, as a writer, you're never thrilled to get notes. You're never, I mean, it just is the thing. You're just never thrilled to get notes. And then they come in and you're like, well, you're laughing hysterically. And so it's been a true joy to, they're really involved in this process, but it has been a joy to create, Ghostbusters sort of right alongside of them and have their guidance and really taking it to a place where it is quintessentially Ghostbusters as we sort of all envision it and want it to be.
I love hearing that. That just puts a big smile on my face. Thank you.
Did Jason send you notes? Or are you jokes, Blue?
Jokes, no. I did. What I would do is I would get, so I delivered the art in stages where I would receive David's script. I would then do what's often known as a thumbnail stage, which is basically like a really rough sketch where I'm fitting all of the images together in a page like Tetris, basically. I'm figuring how all the panels fit. And that would be, like a rough pass, like, okay, it'll be like from this angle, Phoebe will be like here in the panel and she'll be, aiming like her, like, this here. And so it was just like staging, basically, the choreography. So I would get notes back that would, be a little more like granular with like, oh, do it from this angle instead, or add more slime here. But I would get some like notes that were just like, great, love it. And and so as soon as my heart rate went down, because David's right, like, there's a little bit of trepidation in getting notes, right? So when I would open the digital sticky note and I'll be like, this is great, I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah, and when Jason sends you notes like, I thought this was so funny, or I thought this was great, you're like, I'm gonna make so many meals out of that compliment. I'm just taking it to my grave.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. What about the sort of development process? Did you have ideas in mind? I mean, I understand this is one big story about getting from Oklahoma to New York City. But do you have ideas that you kind of build off of, or because I assume there are adventures in every single one of these issues, and they're going to be adventures that we're not used to seeing in the cinematic landscape. And so without giving any details, were you just allowed to kind of come up with your own stories, like, hey, they should kind of do this and go through these type of experiences, or was that also part of the collaboration with the Gil and Jason?
So it's definitely a collaboration with them, but we get to go and pitch ideas for storylines. So we have the characters. We know that's fit between Afterlife and Frozen Empire, and they're moving back into the firehouse. And so we all sort of collectively, Ghost Corps, Jason, Sony, all had an idea of emotionally sort of where the characters are, where they're going. And in the midst of that, we created a story, the plot basically, and we created something that would sort of help reflect the conflicts, the issues, the adjustments going from Oklahoma to moving into the firehouse that's been sitting there. So we got to pitch those ideas, and then it was a collaboration from there to create what is this 4-issue story arc.
So, a question I have for you, Blue, for any obstacles that you had to overcome, likeness with the characters, for like the vehicles, the proton packs, anything like that you were kind of like, okay, I need to do this, from the art, perspective.
That's a good question, because that is definitely something. I think it's a fairly common challenge when you're working on something for a franchise where there's like a long history with a lot of lore. I've worked on a couple of IPs where, there's someone in charge of like making sure everything stays movie accurate or show accurate, whatever, and you have to get all the details exactly right, or fans will get mad at you. So there were many times where I would like, the proton packs were the big sticking point. Was, there were a lot of like fiddly details that I had to get right. There's a point in the series where I have to like get really well acquainted with what the components are of the proton pack. So I had to like look really closely. I had to get a lot of reference imagery, which for Ghostbusters, thankfully, is not difficult. This is something that fans have, captured a lot of screenshots. They have their own props that are like, frankly, movie scale. Ecto 1 was actually quite easy because there are a lot of people who have made model kits or, made their own, like, they've modded their own actual cars and just taken pictures from every angle imaginable. So I could just Google image search Ecto 1. I could find all kinds of interesting angles, which allowed me to do some really dynamic, like, camera angles, like have it look like the Ecto's like skidding on 2 wheels over some slime. Like that actually was not nearly as difficult as those proton packs.
And here I am, just by myself behind my computer, going, let's do all these things. I'm sure Blue will work it out. Let's have the Ecto 1 on 2 wheels going through a foot of slime,
The creatures were honestly really fun because that's something that I essentially came up with from scratch. Like I was given a description of like what these things could look like, and as long as I kind of kept that frame of mind of like make these look like practical like props, make this look like something that you could make out of silicone and rubber and like puppet around a movie set. That was sort of the design philosophy I went into that and that was like frankly extremely fun.
Ooh.
But the more technical the details, the more time it took.
Yeah, fans
well,
are
that's kind of
very specific with their toys.
Yeah.
Well, and that was such a luxury. I think that was the luxury of being able to work on this comic and the freedom that we've been given. It's all those technical details about the proton packs and Ecto 1 and the characters and the character likenesses. But then we got the opportunity to kind of tell a new story, so we could introduce new ghosts and new ghoulies,
Mhm.
and really sort of expand this world in a way that we didn't have the constraints of model kits that you can buy online. So that was great. Hopefully, the readers like sort of the mythology, the lore that we've kind of introduced into the worlds, and we will see.
Mhm.
2 weeks, Blue.
2 weeks.
So
But who's
excited.
counting, right?
So excited.
We are, for sure.
So this
There you go.
is a question that I'm going to ask very carefully, and you can answer equally as carefully. But this is also a big selling point, I think, for the comics. Will there be certain aspects of your story, David, that the film would either reference or that would kind of bleed into the film that fans can be like, "Ooh, I know what this is," or "Ooh, I saw that in the comic," or things that fans who actually read the comics will kind of see or see later down the line?
So I will answer deliberately.
Mm,
So it's fun that the movie was originally slated to come out the weekend of the release of the comic book.
right.
So instead, it was moved up a week. So anybody who watches the movie and then picks up the comic, I think it's going to feel like once you watch the movie, you're familiar with sort of where the family is in New York, and that whole adventure that they go on, and then you pick up the comic and you're like, oh, okay, so this is a little bit of what, like how they got to where they are in the movie. So I can't really share a lot of details about
Of
how
course.
that is all connected, but it's the story is standalone, but it's in this continuity that's going to, I think, work together to give you a really full picture of what's happening with the Spanglers leading into the movie. And having seen the movie and then reading the comic, I think it's actually going to be such a great, fun, full experience for this whole world.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
There was a lot of consistency that we were able to provide with the set design specifically for the firehouse, thanks to the
Right.
reference we were provided. They were really generous with giving us like behind the scenes pictures. It really gave us a sense of like, first of all, like the care and attention that goes into dressing a movie set like that. But yeah, you can like get a sense of like, oh, this thing will be here, and for the movie, and we can pay attention to certain things appearing in certain ways. I don't know how specific I can be, but I remember I was told keep an eye on this, this needs to be this way, in a way that makes it feel cohesive.
Absolutely.
Nice.
And
Also,
of course,
exactly what we want to hear.
yeah, and of course, there's Sony and Ghost Corps and the folks involved in the comic are steering us. They're very familiar with the movie, of course, so they're sort of steering us. And usually, I feel like in these circumstances, they're like, you can't do this, you can't do this, you can't do this. But I feel like with them, they were more like, well, why don't you show this? Because this, this happens in the movie, and wouldn't it be cool if we did that? And so we were able to sort of throw some ideas back to them and be like, so we were able to get, Blue was able to get sort of the schematics and things of the firehouse and sort of see the
Exactly.
layout.
Oh,
I was
wow.
able to, I don't even know if I'm allowed to even share this, but I was able to get a much fuller picture of what the movie is early on.
Mm-hmm.
So I was able to sort of think about that and think, okay, if we move back from what's happening, what can we put in there as little Easter eggs or something
Nice.
that would reward the folks who watch the movie and read the comic. So it was fun to be a part of that team that sort of was encouraging the tie-ins and not trying to rein us in because they thought we were going to step on something in the movie or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Love
So
it.
it sounds like they're open to giving you that to more access, because we've interviewed toy designers who create like some of the Star Wars figures, and this is pre-Mandalorian while they're still filming. They're given photos so they can go off of to create the designs to match details, and they want them to fill those details. So it seems that's what they gave you, the opportunity to fill those details to tie together.
Mm-hmm. The
Yeah,
schematics of the
and
firehouse were very interesting to look at, because it
Wow.
gave me a sense of the scale in a way that I hadn't really considered, when I first watched the movies, and figuring out where everything fit was really kind of fun to explore. I feel like I got to take advantage of that in the first issue, specifically in a way that I think people might really get excited by. We'll see.
Nice.
yeah, and there was one thing specifically. I'm going to talk so vaguely; it's going to drive folks nuts. But
We love
I mean,
it.
there was one
We
thing
love it.
specifically that I threw in there that I was not aware of, that it was going to be part of the movie, and we were able to keep it in and do it in a way that it sort of is going to hint at more of a more expansive exploration of it in the movie. And I just thought that was so. I mean, I'm just going to fanboy out for a minute. It
Oh,
was
go ahead.
so
Go ahead.
cool to bop around this firehouse. Blue, you probably can agree with me. Just to bop around the firehouse and see actually what it's like on the inside, even virtually, just to
Mm-hmm.
see what the inside was like. It was just so cool.
For sure.
Amazing. I love it. I love hearing that, because the firehouse has always been almost an elusive debate with fans, because
Yeah.
the movies show maybe half of the firehouse. The
Mhm.
video games also expand on certain elements of it, but they're never symmetrical. They're never the same across the board. So
Mhm.
the movies going forward, and your comic book sounds like we're going to get a definitive understanding of the inner workings of that firehouse. And so it is exciting, because just like New York is as much of a character of this franchise, that firehouse is just the same. We love it.
Mhm.
Oh,
I
yeah.
like all the attention that's gone into figuring out what it is. Also, for what it's worth, the way fans, as you mentioned, have been documenting it over the years. I remember I was looking, when I was trying to get a sense of what certain fiddly spaces in different parts of the firehouse looked like. I was looking at Minecraft maps people have made of the
Wow.
firehouse. I've seen Lego versions.
I was going
It's
to say
quite,
Lego. I was
yeah,
going to say
Lego's
Lego
big.
because there's a giant Lego firehouse, I think, right? The Ghostbusters
I'm
firehouse.
pretty sure it's honestly really charming to see how, even without the help of official schematics, people have been trying to piece it together. One of my favorite movies is Galaxy Quest, and I feel like that captures
Oh,
that same thing too, of just trying to pin together all of these things and making it into a whole. That was quite fun.
Blue, let's
Absolutely.
do a Galaxy Quest comic.
Oh, I would love. Are you kidding me? I could.
You gotta do that.
I would love to draw Sam Rockwell and Sigourney Weaver. Are you kidding me?
Yes, let's do it. I
Dude,
love that movie
we
so
need
much.
that. We definitely need that.
The entire
Yeah.
framing of our podcast turns into Galaxy Quest colors.
That would be funny.
That's
Right
gonna be the
now.
opening clip for this entire interview. That's gonna be the plug right there.
So
That
of
is
course
amazing.
we're part of Geekcast, which is just we talk about movies, comics, everything. So we also ask actors that we interview and everybody has a geek site, some form, way or another. And I can tell Blue came out with Galaxy Quest, and so did you. So I take it, what other stuff do you guys into that is your geekdom that you D&D, magic, what is your love that you do away from work?
I got two. I'll let you think, Blue. My passion project, my favorite movie of all time. Well, I shouldn't. My second favorite movie behind every Ghostbusters movie is Beetlejuice, and so
Oh,
I want to do that comic. I want to do our. I want to write an animated series. I want to do all kinds of fun stuff with that. It's the first movie I remember seeing in the theater when I think it was like 8 or 9. And my
nice.
dad took me during a school night to a single screen theater in a small town in Ohio. It's like,
Wow.
we're gonna do this. So it was kind of like forbidden too because of school night. There's that, and then I'm a huge fan of retro gaming. So any
Nice.
Nintendo, Super Nintendo, all of that stuff. It's just I love all of that. So my other dream is to create a Nintendo comics universe
Dude,
going forward. A
do
little
it.
Zelda,
You
a
gotta
little
do it.
Mario, a little Kirby. We'll see.
Nice.
awesome.
We
Blue,
love
we
it.
could do that one too.
Let's see. For me, one of the projects I got into over the last couple of years, one of my pandemic hobbies, we all have them. I got really into making models and dioramas, and I would actually use a lot of like trash and like found items. There was a YouTuber I followed who would do this, where he would like cut up old bottles and packing containers and what have you, and he would like make stuff out of them. So I've made a couple of those. I have a Evangelion Unit 2 on a little display that I have a Teen Tiny Alaska to go with it. I have the laboratory from Pacific Rim, which is maybe one of my favorite
nice.
movies ever.
Wow.
I made that out of like trash and materials, and I have a powdered espresso bottle that's like the tank that the kaiju brain lives in. That's something
dude.
that
That's
I
so
would have
cool.
made one this winter, but I was too busy working on Ghostbusters.
That
Did
is
you
Nice.
have
fantastic.
reference?
Oh,
you have
yes.
reference
So
to
here's
that?
the thing. I accumulated a lot of Pacific Rim screenshots. This is also something fans have documented copiously. So I had a whole bunch of like screenshots to refer to for how this lab looked. I have a lot of teeny tiny little details.
That was a great
And
movie. I loved it. I'm a big, Godzilla fan, Power Rangers.
Mhm.
It's just big robots for some apparent reason. I just love them. But yeah, that was a good movie. I wish Guillermo del Toro would have been able to come in and do more work in some
Yeah.
form. But yes, I know exactly what you're talking about.
It's a
and
fun
David,
world.
lucky you, your two favorite movies coming out with 2 new sequels this year. You must be on cloud 9.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm cautiously optimistic, and it sounds like everything from Beetlejuice 2 is they like don't want to do a lot of CGI, and they don't want to, they just want to make it
Oh, yes.
what I think we all, we want, which is let's feel like let's have the calypso music, and let's just make it Beetlejuice, but a new Beetlejuice.
Yes,
Absolutely.
for sure.
Yeah, can't wait. Winona,
My
Kenan, and
my
then
comic will be
they've
called
added,
Apocalypso.
yeah, and they've added Wednesday.
Nice.
Oh, Jenna Ortega into the movie.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just like, what a
Mhm.
recipe for just brilliance. Can't wait. Are there any words or anything you'd like to share with the fans that you're allowed to about the Ghostbusters Back in Town comic series coming out in a few weeks?
I don't think we've been given parameters, have we, Blue?
I don't think so. I mean, all I guess I can really say is, thanks for giving the comics a shot. I really enjoyed working on them. I'm really excited. The colors that we have for this Mildred, I love working with her. She's gonna really like knock it out of the park with the colors for this.
Nice.
I can't wait to see how the finished pages look.
Yeah, and from my perspective, I guess substantively we can share that it's it's the family moving back in town, and it's sort of adjusting to a new place. That, as Blue said, Manhattan is a character, Tribeca is a character, the firehouse is a character. So it's all of those meshing together. And I just want the Ghostbusters sort of hardcore fans to know that this is coming from a place of fandom and a place of loving this franchise. So every step of the way, we've just tried to do something that we're all going to together be excited about. So yeah, I think you're gonna. I honestly think you're gonna love it. It's gonna be something that you can just add to your enjoyment of Ghostbusters as a universe.
Made by Ghostbusters fans for Ghostbusters fans. The two of you and Ghost Core will be celebrating Ghostbusters Back in Town during a release event Wednesday, March 27th from 3 to 8 p.m. with some friends of ours, the LA Ghostbusters. If you want more information, I suggest going over to Instagram and checking out the LA Ghostbusters page. And you can also go to Dark Horse Comics and get more information on that event. And David, looks like you're also going to be there in attendance. What else can you tell fans about the March 27th event?
Sure. We are going to be in Chatsworth, which is in Southern California. It's kind of an LA suburb. At We Can Be Heroes comic shop, big comic shop up there. And they're doing a huge release event in connection with the LA chapter of the Ghostbusters. And there's going to be a bunch of voice talent for like Slimer and the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man.
Wow.
I'll be there signing comics. They're going to have, I'm just fanboying out again because they're going to have an Ecto Foxtrot, which I didn't even know is a thing. It's like an SUV that is Ecto One.
Oh
It's
my
like
God.
Ecto SUV that they have created. So I'm going to be just 100 selfies in front of this thing. Yeah, so it's just going to be a celebration in conjunction with the comic shop and the Southern California Ghostbusters group. So join us on the release day as we just celebrate what it means to bust ghosts.
Nice.
I love it. And is there any chance, have there been any side discussions on potentially seeing more Ghostbusters comics depending on how well this limited series does?
Not that I'm aware of, but you never know.
You never know.
Never
That's
know.
a great way to put it, Blue. You never know.
That's fantastic. I would take that as a maybe.
Blue.
Yeah.
So most artists do digital, some do original art.
Mhm.
Did you do original or did you do digital for this?
I work digitally. I use Clip Studio Paint. My digital setup's pretty modest. I've been using the same tablet since like 2011. It has not failed me so far. I don't want it to fail anytime soon. But yeah, I use digital tools. But I have like some cool digital brushes that mimic like working with like sable inking brushes. So
Wow,
classic
okay.
ink looking tools.
So I'm the comic collector here in the
Mhm.
group, and as us fans, some of us like original art, or when we get to see the artist in person, we'll like to get either a sketch cover or a little sketch by the artist.
Mhm.
So if fans see you in a convention, do you do that for fans as well?
I do, yes. I usually I'll try to learn how to freehand draw at least one character from whatever project I'm working on. So I can draw you I'll draw you an Ernie Hudson or something. Or Slimer. Your pick. One of those two.
Nice. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Because like I said, I'm the comic collector guy here, so I collect art, as you can tell in my background. I'm a Harley fan, so I'm a big Harley Quinn fan.
Sure.
And then my wife's a big Buffy fan, so our living room has artwork of Buffy. And then, yeah, it's crazy. I collect art for some reason. I love art, and you guys. So the reason why I reached out to you as well with Ted is because you guys, without you guys, the writer gives the artist, a platform to go, and you have to use your imagination to try to fill what the artist is writing.
Mhm.
And sometimes artists and writers don't always, it doesn't come out right sometimes, but when you find chemistry between the two and
Mhm.
fans as well, the artwork comes out phenomenal, and especially when you see it come to life on the page, makes a big difference. And just from talking to you guys, I can see you guys are fans and you take passion into your work. So I'm so excited for this comic. I can't wait to see the artwork. I can't wait to read it. So that's just my opinion.
Thank you.
Talk
A good-
about no pressure, Blue.
No, I mean, well, it is what it is. I will say, I mean, David was a good writer to collaborate with because he understands what the good effective components of individual pages are. Lots of inexperienced writers, they'll try and jam too many things on a
Yes.
page, or certain actions that require 3 pages or 3 panels minimum, all jammed into one. It's nice to work with a writer who has a good sense of pacing, or of timing, or what would make an interesting impactful image. So that made interpreting those instructions fun. And believe me, I have worked from rough scripts, and this was not that.
Oh,
Nice.
good. Well, now I'm gonna have a meal of that compliment.
You earned it.
And from my perspective, I've worked with a lot of different writers, and I'm always sort of thinking in that visual mindset, as well as the physics of the physical aspect of reading a comic. So page turns are important. Panel gutters are important. I learned early on, like Blue said, not to jam so much into a page
Yes.
that it's impossible to draw. Let the art breathe. Let the moment breathe
Mhm.
if it needs to. And I think that's what's so good about Ghostbusters. It's a licensed project, and I've had licensed project. Blue, I'm sure you've been in this situation where they're just like, tell the story, tell the plot, give us this side quest, and then we're going to move on.
Mhm.
Yes.
With this comic, the characters are so important in the Ghostbusters world that we got the chance to actually have moments with them, and we didn't have to be fighting ghosts all the time. They could, be bickering or one-liners or just trying to figure things out. And
Wow.
so getting those moments of getting that opportunity to let the characters be the characters without proton packs on was really fun. It was really exciting. And that's one of the aspects I love about this so much.
Definitely.
Yeah, I mean,
Everything you said
you're
just
taking it
makes us
right.
more excited.
Yeah, I mean, you got it right. Like Walking Dead. When people started reading Walking Dead, it was a black and white comic, just artwork, story, and it got you hooked. There was not too much, going on and everything, but it drew you in because it built by the characters, and I think that's what helps comics sell in that aspect. When you have the good artwork and the good story together, it makes a big difference for comics.
Mhm.
So, like I said, I'm very excited
Yeah.
for this.
You can't create 150 issues of a comic book just fighting zombies.
Yeah,
Exactly.
So,
exactly.
and I think everybody who's involved understands that with the Ghostbusters, you can't just fight ghosts. You
That
gotta,
should be on a T-shirt. You can't write 150 comic books for just fighting zombies.
Nice.
but don't forget to fight zombies.
We are so stoked if you haven't already figured it out, and you're already a part of this massive celebration that fans are going to be continuing on until Ghostbusters Day, which is in June 8th of this year. So the 40th anniversary, the movie, and the comic are all a part of that. Thank you both for being here today, David and Blue. We are so excited. Be sure to get out to your comic book shop March 27th, the week after the movie releases. Pick up your own copy if you're in the LA area. Please go check out David at the comic book release event at We Can Be Heroes Comics on 9449 DeSoto Avenue in Chatsworth. That's Wednesday, March 27th from 3 to 8 p.m. Also going to be hanging out with David, are the always awesome LA Ghostbusters, some friends of ours that we've had on the show before. So it's cool that they're going to be a part of it because they're a fantastic group as well. Thank you both for being here tonight. We absolutely cannot wait, and we appreciate everything that you're doing for the franchise.
Thank you for
Ted.
having us.
Thank you, Ray.